truth. Vince Nardone could not join us today, so I am joined by Matt Kerouac and guest. If you'd like to introduce your guest.
This is Mo Khan, losing his mind as usual. Okay, you're done.
Thank you, Mo. Pleasure as always.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming on.
No problem.
I know it's been something we've wanted to do before, considering we have that love-hate relationship
Yes,
as
sir,
well.
yes, sir.
We're gonna have a lot of back and forth.
Of course.
I'm really glad that everyone else we asked canceled and that you were able to come.
Yeah, Nardone's he's something else.
Speaking of Nardone, if this works out, it's been fun.
Yeah. Sorry, man. Sorry,
First on the docket, first game we saw, Division 1, Rainmakers, Flag-Molissac. Considering how well the Flag-Molissac team were doing as a whole, especially coming off a 5-on-6 win, and how poorly the Rainmakers had been doing in the past, did this come as a surprise to you?
No, actually, to be honest, this year playing against Ryan Kastner, he's been on point. For the past years that I've played him, a little bit off at times. This year seems to be just completely on point.
Exactly, we're seeing less sacks taken.
Yeah.
Aside from that, he's really been able to dodge rushers, as well as keeping those interceptions still down. The passes have been perfect.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And as good as Nato Hughes is,
Yep.
He's got a gun. He moves around like a maniac back there. I mean, the Rainmakers' defense is on point. Kastner's on point. I mean, they're poised to go far.
Do you see this as being a potential upset considering where these two teams are ranked?
No, I could see them equal. They're pretty much equal. I would say them as equal, and then depending on who gets the bye, I can see them meeting in the semifinal. That's what I see.
Between the two, if you had to put money on something right now, would you put on the Flag-Molissac offense or the Rainmakers defense? Considering this game essentially came down to, with no interceptions, a possession battle.
Depending on who's rushing Hughes, I would say. To be honest, because they had about 3 rushers from what I saw. It was right before our game. And depending on who was rushing, Kastner even rushed him and did a good job. So it really depends because he runs around a lot and he's got a gun. I put it on Rainmakers D. Rainmakers D.
We have a tweet in from Vince Nardone, which has nothing to do with football, but I'm very excited to answer it, especially since he can't stream us via shitty hotel Wi-Fi. He wants to know, would you stop and help a random person jogging along a highway in the dark, or would you drive on through and give it no thoughts? If you're out jogging in the middle of the night, chances are you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think the jogger would be more creeped out than we would.
I'd look at his hands, and if they're as small as Vince's, I wouldn't have them. No way. No way.
But you know he's not going to fight back.
Yeah, no, he'll make interceptions for Marco and then cost him the season. Perfect season. It's fine. Whatever. Sorry, Vince.
Speaking of Marco, D-Boys, Terror Squad, game that ended in a tie, 28-28. You said something off camera before we started that Terror Squad came together 8 weeks too late.
Yeah, essentially. Tam played amazing. He was using his feet, throwing on the run, calling the right plays with his feet, coming together. He's been playing great the past 2 weeks, and if he would have done that from week 1, they probably would have been 500. In my opinion, they would have been 500.
It's been interesting as well because this was one of the games where he didn't actually use the option play and was still able to score at the same time. So we're seeing him really adapt to Division 1 as well and finally get what was necessary. Corey Greenaway, 1 touchdown. Patrick Jerome, 2 touchdowns. JC Mercy, 2 receptions for 2 touchdowns, including...
That's exact. He was using his center. Mercil he makes these incredible grabs. He made that one-handed grab in the end zone. I was impressed. Everybody was impressed. He was using all his tools.
We have another tweet in from Ryan Aridi wanting to know why my co-host Vince has gained so much weight.
It's because he's at the gym every day working on his arms. He doesn't do anything else but arms.
By the way, Matt, what's your injury?
Sorry?
Ryan would like to know what your injury is.
It's a strained ACL, Ryan. Don't worry. I'll still be ahead of you by the end of the season.
We will touch upon that a little bit more later. Where do D-Boys go from here? Is this not the way they want to end the season, or is this more just a refresher that brings them back down, not to underestimate every other team?
Look, I spoke about it with Giovanni during the game. Terror Squad was playing for their lives. They had to win out in order to make playoffs, and we already knew that we were playing DK. James Crow was rushing. Didn't even know until I showed up and told him I wasn't playing. It was more of a, okay, let's just try things, see how it's going, get ready for DK kind of game. And Terra Squad was just playing to make it. In reality, I don't know. I think that if we played our full squad, the intensity that we usually played, it would have been a different game.
So with this in mind, and with Terra Squad effectively bowing out of the playoffs, if everything is the same next season in Winter Division 1, where do you see Terra Squad finishing, considering the way they played here?
I'm telling you right now, if Tam can work on calling the plays that he's been calling for the past 2 weeks with his feet, they're going to do well in Division 1. They're not going to be a 1-7-1 team through week 9. They're
Without
not.
a doubt. I would say we'd be closer to a 4-6, 5-5.
At least, yeah. They have potential to beat the higher tier teams, Rainmakers, Flymusak, D-Boys. They have the potential to do it. It's just they have to start clicking a little more than they were.
So it'll come down to as well containing him, keeping in the pocket, having a top tier rusher. Considering
it doesn't even matter. Honestly, Tam, in rushing him over the years and this year, he seems to be quicker. And if he can work with his new found quickness and an arm, he's going to be dangerous. That's my opinion.
Speaking of quickness and dangerous, the last game on the docket, Chernobyl Circus, Clockwork, a game that essentially came down to who threw the least amount of interceptions in the game. It was a back and forth, really uncharacteristic for both quarterbacks who are Division 1 quarterbacks, essentially playing in Division 2. You played in this game. Tell us a little more about it.
Marco threw 2 picks in the red zone. I know he was upset about it. One of them, Chenard, came out of nowhere, and the other one was just a bad read on his part. As for Chenard playing quarterback, I find that from what I've heard in the past, this guy has been unstoppable when he's on the run and throwing. And he seems to be rushing him myself. He's been sitting in the pocket and not moving. So I don't know, in him changing his style, I don't know.
I think a little bit of that also comes down to the fact that Division 1 now is not the same as it was before, where we're seeing different types of teams emerge, whereas a lot of teams used to be the same, whereas the Finest and the Hurricanes and Old School all pretty much ascribe to the same playbook, whereas you have Montreal's Finest, who are totally different from the D-Boys, who are totally different from DK, who are totally different from the Rainmakers, and it changes from there.
But, considering that Chenard plays Div 1, Div 2 is his spot to try new stuff. This is his spot to roll out, see how he does on the run. He's got Arsenal Hum, who's just ridiculous. The guy is big, gets in the zones. On defense, he's always in the right place. He's got to use his weapons, and I find that in Division 1, he's only using SCC, where he should be using 2-0, Arsenal Hum, and SCC. I think they would have had more success if he did that.
And even Mathieu Patry, who's been having a decent season in Div 1
Him
as
too,
well.
yeah.
But on this side, looking at David Polynice, 6 receptions for 40 touchdowns. For 40 yards, no touchdowns. Is this someone that, from an insider's perspective, Clockwork keyed in on?
Absolutely. We knew coming into it that that's who he's looking for. We knew Arsenal Hum was his second look, and 2-0, but 2-0 wasn't there.
Yeah, so we're not going to...
We also thought, I asked Marco pre-game that with the McGill suspension thing going on, is Paulini's going to be there? We didn't prepare for it, but just to say if it didn't happen, Arsenal Hum would have been covered all game by Jamal or Omar, whoever. Mm-hmm. We did do our best to cover him, and we did a good job from what I can see.
And for all intents and purposes, we will be looking at the playoff situation later on. Yeah. But this is definitely a matchup that will definitely be revisited in the next little while. We had 3 defaults on the docket: Wolfpack, BC McGonagals, and TMT. On the plus side, Wolfpack were kind enough to let Serve with Ice know in advance that they were not going to be attending the game. But, it's week 10. We have a full understanding that we all pay, we all want to play.
That's the continuous argument, is that we pay to play, show respect for the players.
Or even just show up and have fun, even if you know you're not going to win.
That's the extra point that I would say would be just show up for the love of the game. We'll pay the $30 a week preseason just to play and warm up for the season, so why not do the same thing week 10? It sucks. I know TMT against Cold Fusion showed up 40 minutes late, so they made the effort. Mm-hmm. It just sucks for the guys that are looking for stats too, to... I was always in a kind of thing with Tony Curie to have the most receptions, and
he pulled out ahead.
Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah,
by 3.
Correct.
He would have had probably 75 by the end of the last game, the way he plays. But
So with that in mind, one of your favorite things to chirp me about off the camera is rapid fire, how I keep picking against you. So we each have questions for each other. For those of you listening at home, I'm going to ask Matt a few, just simple yes or no, or choose one of the other questions. And then once again, no prep. I don't know if you've colluded with Vince or not, but I know you have your questions.
Oh yeah, I got my questions. Oh yeah.
So here, let's bring mine up at the same time. Who's the better rusher, Ryan Aridi or Guillaume Ward?
Ryan.
Perfect. What do you prefer playing in, Div 1 or Div 2?
Div 2 because I actually play offense.
Jordan McLaren or Jelani McLaren?
That's bull. I have the same kind of question. Jordan, all day.
Brossard or Lila?
Brossard.
Aked Moore or Jamal Gittins?
I don't even care. Jamal. All day. Jamal! My boy.
Mercenaries or Messengers of Happiness?
Oh my god. Messengers because Gino wasn't on the team.
Woo! And Omar Jackson or Rich Humes?
All right. Come. That's my teammates.
Correct. Now you see how easy it is to do this.
I'm going to go Rich Humes because I love screaming his name. Rich Humes!
Definitely one of the most
You're
underrated players. Yeah, exactly. I am done now. Whether or not I was done or not, you've made that decision, so I know you're going to take over with some questions.
Okay. I don't know why Vince asks you the dumb questions that he does. Bring Eagle to the moon or whatever he says.
Canoeing with Nathan Taylor?
I'm assuming that it has to do with like a Mad Libs kind of thing at the end of the season where he's going to bust a story together, so I'm going to add to it. It's a multiple choice.
Okay.
Mocon Fro, Mocon shaved head, or Mocon Madman haircut?
Fro. We saw it brush back. It reminds me of the times where Mo played for the league.
Oh, okay, 10 years ago. Okay, yeah, it's good. Okay, real questions. If you had to choose a snapper Division 1, who would you take? That's in the Division 1.
So, off the top of my head, you've got the different snappers. So there's JP St. Pierre on Flagmo Sac, Brian Lariviere, or Mike Harrington from Montreal's Finest.
Yeah.
Derek Kastner. I'm just thinking off the top of my head who the other snappers are. Como. Yeah. It would have to be Anthony Como. I do like the versatility of Harrington's speed as well if he's playing center.
Yeah.
Though Brian Lariviere seems to be the go-to center, but it would be Como, hands down.
I would assume so. Hoping so, anyway. All right. The next best two-way player in the league, in your opinion, Jamal Gittins or Adam Bailey?
I think that we still have a lot to see of Jamal Bailey. Wow.
That's a good person.
I like sitting on the fence there. I think there's still a lot to be seen of Jamal Gittins. Adam Bailey has been two-way player of the year before. He's still in contention now, but I think, especially since Jamal isn't a natural football player, and we're still seeing these.
He'll tell you he's not a
freak athleticism
on the field.
Yeah, he's
I love
the best is yet to come.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right.
Oh, we have a question from Eagle. If you had to give up your Hall of Fame title, who do you give it to?
Ryan Aridi. Hands down. Hands down. We were talking about it before.
Brent is saying he has a tweet-in question as well.
Let me get that for you.
Eagle, at Eagle FPF from Brent Callender. Matt, can you tell us why this year will be different for Marco in playoff performance? GM, talk about role players in the playoffs.
Because Giovanni and I are back, and if he starts to get rattled, we will beat him up. Literally. We know how he gets into his head and his own head, and we're there to smack it out of him. Last year, I was on FaceTime while they played Served with Ice, and I tried to do my best. And anyway, we're here this year. Antonio Lani and him get a little bit riled up a lot of the time, and for the most part, Giovanni is the guy who keeps the peace in the family, and I do so for Clockwork, for Marco's part anyway. We're there to keep the peace for him. He's gonna keep calm, get out of his head a little bit, and we'll be the reason why.
And to answer Brent's question, role players I can think of off the top of my head: Division 1 Flagmo Sac, Victor Soltendiek, guy who doesn't get a lot of press but goes super hard on every play and is fantastic for his team. And on the other side as well, Rainmakers, Seiya Sinot, a player who definitely does not get enough press in my opinion.
Absolutely not, but he should.
Back to you.
Okay, last week Vince asked you, who would you pick, your offense and your defense? Stupid answer that you gave, as usual. So I'm going to go a little continuation on it.
Let's do it.
To beat Montreal's finest, pick an offense from Division 1 and Division 2 and a defense from Division 1 or Division 2 to beat them.
Just straight team offense
Just
and
straight
defense?
offense and straight defense.
Okay. It's going to have to be Flagmelosac's offense when everyone is present. So, assuming Felix Prevost, Sam Nadeau-Putes is there, Victor Soltendieck, and who's their last player? 81.
Jeep.
No, Maxime Fournier.
Maxime Fournier, okay, yeah.
And on the defensive side of the ball, it would probably...
Just say it.
D-Boys.
Thank you. That's what I thought. Are you saying that because I'm here, or are you just saying that?
No, it's a fact.
With Theo or without Theo?
With Theo.
He's on his way back. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So wait, you guys can't beat Wyeth with one hand, but you're the best defense.
I don't need your opinion right now. Listen.
It's also a fact that both teams were severely handicapped by that game.
I get it.
And Brian, I'll give it to Brian. He gave some great snaps to Kevin. Kevin, it was perfectly on his chest. And you know what? There's no excuses. We said. You would probably know better than I am. And this should have been a segment from the beginning of the year. Where is Darren Basmajan? Where is he?
Darren Basmajan's in hiding right now because
that's what I'm saying.
Everything
He's in hiding.
that happens behind the scenes, for those of you who don't know, the bulk of it is Darren Basmajan.
That's what I figured. But he chimes in one time to say, "I'm two-way player of the year, bitch," when Marco mentioned something. So come on, let's go, Darren. Where are you?
Darren plays.
What?
He plays with Terry Tam.
Division
Stop.
6.
Yeah.
6, bro.
Oh my God. If I wrote articles, Darren, I swear. Oh man. Oh jeez.
He is.
So he's around. He's not.
No,
in
he's
hiding.
alive.
Okay.
And if you want to know more about Darren, just ask him why there's a Div 6 team named the Pocket Watch.
I don't want to know. To be honest, I don't even want to know. Okay, well, I'm going back to that question I got mad at you about, based solely on skill. Theo Ojea or Jordan McLaren?
Theo Ojea. I think we see more consistency out of Theo than Jordan.
Surprising. Eh?
Jordan is the king of the jump ball. He's the king of the one-handed catch as well. But
Against
there's times
against Kevin Wyeth.
against anyone.
Well, he did it on
Yeah.
video. That's fine.
When I played with Jordan last season, I saw him catch a one-hander over the DB and tap him on the head with the
But he
ball
also
on the way
tries to
down.
do it. He doesn't try to catch with two hands, so it doesn't count.
Also true.
If I had big enough hands. Nardone, you don't. So don't even try. All right. Who's your pick to win Division 2? And if whoever your pick is, if they're not a bye team, then who would you pick that's not a bye?
Okay, so thus far of the teams that are the bye team, I've been very high on Cold Fusion throughout just because they're very, very well built.
What about the chemistry?
The chemistry is there as well because these guys have played together throughout the years in different incarnations as well. Trelden James has subbed on this team before. They have a really... Jason Prince and Tony Corey have put together a strong team. And of the non-bye week teams, so whoever is listed in 3 through 6,
Yeah.
Eagles bringing them up. Right now, you have Glads, FFF, Servathai, Shakaloins, Clockwork, ONS, Wolverines, and Lame Shah. Just from top to bottom without weak links, I know you worded the question that way because you know my answer, but it is Clockwork.
Really?
Yeah. I think that Flag Football Fantasy are very, very good. However, there's the inconsistency going between, are they going to go with Benny in the playoffs? Are they going to go with Nathan Taylor? There's that looming over their head. Gladiators are good, but tend to fall apart as the postseason comes around.
Yeah, if it depends on Frank LeBeau, in my opinion.
Serve with Ice are going to be without half their eligible roster. Shacklelanes are still too new.
I still haven't even seen Shacklelanes play. I don't even know. I don't even know.
Then why are you here? What makes you the
It's a
expert?
good point, because Nardone's in Pittsburgh.
He's just here so he won't get fined.
Yeah. I'm just here so I won't get fined. All right. Do you think that the winner of Division 1 is going to come out of Conference B, even if Finest are not the ones that come out of it?
Yes, without a doubt. There's no doubt in my mind.
Okay. And then another question on it. Who's going to come out of Conference A?
I think it's going to be Flag Mosac. Even though Rainmakers and Flag Mosac had such a close game,
Rainmakers are 2-0 against them.
correct. I think that Nadeau-Putes is going to come into the playoffs with something different for them.
All right. And I have to ask, just because otherwise he won't throw me the ball anymore. What does Marco Masiotra have to do for you to accept him as a human being and a football player
I
whatever.
have no problems because if you remember, for those of you who have been following this debacle throughout its entirety,
like 5 years worth.
yeah, exactly. It just so happened that in the spring, as per Marco, I wasn't talking about him enough, and then when he mentioned that, I linked the article where I mentioned that he went 9 touchdowns and basically carried the team himself. And from there, I went from not talking about Marco enough to not talking about him to talking about him too much.
Literally wouldn't. I'm not even going to argue with you because I hate him more than you do. So it really doesn't matter.
So that's your last question?
That's my last question.
I appreciate it. So we'll wrap up GM Under Fire for now. We'll take enough pressure off me. We'll put it back on you.
Nope.
We're going to look at the playoff teams in Division 2, the matchups potentially, and the Week 11 Div 1 games when we come back.
Calling the Audible has been brought to you by the English Montreal School Board's DEAL program. Distance education for all learners will allow you to obtain your high school diploma or prerequisites for CEGEP or vocational studies from the comfort of your own home. It's never too late to go back to school. Learn anywhere at your own pace and get your diploma. Call 514-788-5937 for information or visit www.distanted.ca for more details.
And we're back with the truth. I'm Jim Coletheris. You can reach me on Twitter at GMKOLE44. If you actually want to get your tweets heard on the show, though, the man to tweet them at is at EagleFPF. And we have Matt Kierouac at To Be Determined.
Too sophisticated for Twitter.
Too sophisticated for Twitter. So with that in mind, playoffs are locked up for both Division 1 and Division 2. If you look to your screen, Flagmel Sack Rainmakers Demons, Finest D-Boys DK. Switching over to Division 2, you have, with bye weeks, Cold Fusion, Chernobyl Circus, Clockwork, ONS, Wolverines, LMC, Legends, CLR Forces, Glads, FFF, Serve with Ice, Shackle Lanes. I'm going to ask you, Matt. I'm going to describe the matchups we're going to be seeing, their previous battle with each other, and what your impressions are. Not too long, but just enough for us to get a little bit of a preview on this. Conference A. 3-seeded Clockwork against the 6-seeded Lim Sirsha. The last time these two teams faced each other, Week 1, LMC won on the last play, 32-25.
Look, I was involved in that game, obviously. Marco was a little baby. His hand was hurting. It was 3 games. And I literally still, to this day, make fun of him because he said, well, my hand is hurting and I can't throw. It was... Look, the guy made 8 receptions and 3 of them were for touchdowns, plus a pick six. It's going to be a completely different game. The chemistry that we have with Clockwork and the chemistry that they've built over the season, it's going to be literally a completely different game. Obviously, I'm not going to give too much about what our plans are, but...
I can take over for you. Clockwork have been like a freight train from here on out, finishing with 7 wins and 3 losses. LMC have been inconsistent, but managed to peak their head enough with 4 wins to make the playoffs. They've been sort of up and down right now, especially with who shows up, who Chantoma decides to target for that week. I think if Chantoma comes in with a game plan, it's going to be a lot closer than we think it's going to be. However, if it's the same LMC we've seen that's inconsistent, or he tries to find his brother on those deep outs that are overthrown and then has to struggle between the other receivers, Clockwork are going to take it handedly.
To be honest, we're coming together as a defense. That was not our issue. Was defense at the beginning, I guess you could say. Offensively, it's Marco. He's on point usually. So, like I said, it's going to be a different game. But the thing about it is that Marco is a little bit flustered, and we've talked about it. They have some great DBs. They are big. Yep. They're fast. A guy that can keep up with Theo step for step. Sambibo on more than one occasion. I mean, Marco was impressed. He told me. So it's got to change Marco's game plan a little bit. Obviously, we don't talk about it that much, but he knows what he's going to do coming into it. And I see, obviously, I'm picking my team. I'm not like you back in the day, picking against your own team. I will always pick our team. If Marco is on point and doesn't get rattled, it's not going to be as close as you think.
No, that's what I said. there's the same inconsistent LMC.
Okay, yeah, then, yeah.
Next one, ONS versus Wolverines. ONS being the 4 seed, Wolverines being the 5 seed. The last time these two teams played each other was this week. ONS won 39, Wolverines 36. Interesting stat line, however, that ONS are the 4-seeded team, however, have the most points against in all of Division 2.
Exactly. Tony Tibet, being a Hall of Fame quarterback, should know that he can beat them offensively consistently. Now, that being said, he's going to have to tell his guys defensively that they got to be closer. Look, Kevin Wyatt is playing not with Montreal's finest. His guys, as good as they may be on ONS offensively, they're not Montreal's finest. They're not as sure-handed. If you're playing tight defense, man for man, you're close to them, you have a hand on them, whatever, the likelihood that they're not going to make the grabs is a lot better than if he was playing for Montreal's finest. So if you're playing that tight defense, I think Wolverines have a way better chance. But if they're going to stay open and play zones and give Kevin the whole entire field, you have no chance. So it's on the Wolverines defense this whole entire game.
Perfect. Do you have a pick off the top of your head?
I don't think that Wolverines are going to be able to do it. ONS take it.
I think we're going to see a similar matchup as well. I'll probably be touching on it with Vince Nardone as well, get his take, but I think I'm tending to agree with you on this one.
Yeah.
Other side, Gladiator, Shacklebones. Previous matchup with Gladiator being the 3 seed, Shacklebones the 6. The last time they saw each other, Glads had 39 and Shacklebones had 20. Admittedly, not a team you've seen a whole lot of.
At all. I haven't. I mean, just from what I've listened to with you, they seem to be a pretty well-rounded football team, just not so much in flag.
Correct.
Like I told you before, I think it's going to be really on Frank LeBeau. If he's on, it's not many teams that can beat him.
And I think that this is a very favorable matchup for Glads and a nightmare matchup for Shacklebones.
Yeah.
Because Shacklebones excel in their athleticism, in playing man defensively, and just beating players with the deep ball or just with straight up speed.
Yeah.
And Shacklebones haven't seen a team like this that are very chemistry based, where LeBeau knows where his guys are going to be
Always.
without even having to look at them, and that's going to be the drawback for Shacklebones on this one.
I think that Shacklebones have the one aspect that could help them is Bobby Michaelberg's experience that can read what Frank is doing and then maybe adjust defensively. But like I said, I've never seen them play. I don't know if they can adjust. I don't know what they do defensively and offensively. I don't. Who's their quarterback?
Ryan Bondi, yes.
Bondi. And how's he been doing? I don't even.
Former McGill quarterback. He's been good, though. As what seems to be the trend with tackle QBs who come into the higher division, the first read is always deep, and it's more difficult.
It's not the flag aspect. It's the okay. Yeah.
And don't forget, Michaelberg is missing his Gatorade bottle.
Yeah, we saw that. I don't know where you got that other picture of it.
Thank you for that. Last one, Flag Football Fantasy versus Serve with Ice, the 4 versus 5 seed. FFF won 25-12. And going into this game, both teams will have even more depleted rosters, considering half of Serve with Ice is not eligible.
And who's depleted for other than
Benny Goodfriend, possibly.
other than that? Nobody?
No.
Nate,
Who's been playing with Flag Football Fantasy as well. Kevin Prempe will not be football playoff eligible, but
okay, and Serve with Ice, do they have a decent rusher?
they for the most part, they're going to be missing their top 2 receivers in Tony Desmond, who is not eligible,
He's
and
not
Alex
eligible.
and Alex Pilon is not eligible either.
Oh boy.
So they're left receiving essentially their 2 big guns, and the bigger names on this team will be JD Chevalier and Carl Lavallee.
With Nate's experience with the higher divisions, he knows what he has to do, especially with guys that are missing Alex Pilon, Desmond. If they don't have a good enough rusher just to keep up with him, he's going to run just around him constantly. He's going to buy his own time to find the open guys. Adam Bailey, his brother Garrett, Chris Robertson on the team too, right? I think it's going to
John
be
Laristis as well.
It's going to be a blowout in my eyes. If what you're saying is true with all the guys not eligible, it's not even going to be fair.
And just before we sign off, we will be touching upon the Div 1 previews next week. However, I think that Nathan is a good enough quarterback, and especially with a depleted roster that Serve with Ice have, he's going to find that weak link, and he's just going to attack it over and over again.
100%.
And I can see than breaking the spread.
Oh, what's the spread?
12 points. That I made up on the spot.
Okay. Good.
So, wait, I just saw Mo Cotton just walking around.
Oh, Mo, yeah. Mo had to get something to eat.
So with that, I really appreciate your time to come out to Northwest, East, Central, whatever Mo calls it, Laval. You're welcome to join Vince and I as the season progresses. Just have that insert.
I don't think his arms and my body can fit in the same. His little hands might make space, but no, not his arms.
So, and according to Matt, that's the truth. You're
That
Matt
is the
Kirouac.
truth.
That is the truth. You're Matt Kirouac. I'm Jim Coletheris. The truth.